It's the Al Travis Show, and we do like to take our time and talk a little farmer stuff. When we do, we get Jerry in here. He's our farmer extraordinaire. Jerry, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm doing really well. It was a very productive Memorial Day weekend.
Well, I trust you took it off and took time to have a barbecue like the rest of us, maybe do a little golfing?
Not exactly. I did
No.
take time off. I was at the studio Monday morning, normal time about 4:30. Did the morning thing, and then it's my way of saying salute to our veterans. Gordy Cosfeld, our news director for many years, has emceed the Memorial Day program in Central Park. And so I
Okay.
was back here at the studio to broadcast that on the air.
Nice, nice. Very nice indeed. I don't know how you guys could ask for anything more. I don't know if you got a direct line to God. Let's just repeat. So we get the snow out pretty early on. Things dry up. You get this 10, 12 days of really nice weather to get everything all tilled up and pork poo put in, whatever you got to do. You're prepped and ready. You put the seed in the ground, and you're on the show telling me one Thursday, whatever day it was, boy, if only we get a couple inches of rain now.
And we did.
For 3 days in a row, it's just this nice little, pretty little rain. Puddles are lining up. Nothing drastic. You got to love it.
Yep.
You're on the show last week.
See, Mother Nature has a conscience because she was feeling guilty for what she did to us last spring.
So we get it in the ground, and I'm even thinking my golf course, the grass is growing. Things are going well, and you said surely could use about an inch a week from here on out, plus some 80-degree temps. Like, good God, what else do you need? Right now, Jerry, all night last night and tonight, at least in my neck of the woods, just a slow, steady rain. Got to have at least about a half an inch, I presume, now. And it's going to be 80 degrees by the end of the week. What else do you need to make money hand over fist, my friend?
Well, there was one little glitch in that plan. I didn't know exactly what the schedule was about when Bird's Eye Foods would want me to get the field ready so they could plant the sweet corn.
Yes.
And so I should have requested that rain a day later because Memorial Day in the afternoon, after I got done at the studio, went out and worked the pea field over and sent a text to Sabrina and said, okay, it's all set to go. Planning on planting it tomorrow, which was Tuesday, and then it started raining a little bit. But it sounds like later on this week's supposed to be nice, so hopefully they'll
get it in.
Get it in then.
So I don't know if you can check this. I presume somebody can. I don't know if you do. I presume you like stick your finger in the ground and that's how you. Are we about as wet as we could be? Are we very happy with the moisture and now it's heat units? And I know you can't talk for all of Minnesota, but as I watch, everybody seems to be getting beat on at the same time.
Things were looking pretty good in our part of the world because when we did get that couple inches of rain, my tile lines were running full.
Yeah.
And I know the drought monitor says we're still in abnormally dry to almost a moderate drought. And I guess they look at surface waters and all that stuff. But the farm boy just watches the tile lines.
That's what I'm saying. As you tell me how great it is, and I'm looking at my yard going, I can't keep up now. And I know we have some forest fires up north. I'm not trying to make fun of those. But it would seem with the amount of rain we had that to be in this almost drought situation, how much more would you need? Maybe I'm missing something. Like you say, they take other things into consideration, and maybe it's a statewide deal. I don't get it.
Yep, I've never completely understood it either, other than I've watched many times when we could have water standing all over in the fields. We've gotten so much rain, and it's still 2 or 3 weeks before we finally get taken out of the abnormally dry. I guess the academics take care of that. I just keep track of the simple stuff like, how's my crop doing?
Well, let me ask you that, where you're at. I use the golf course because that's where I'm at. The field just off to our, what would it be, the west. Corn, you would have saw a stick, if you will, a week ago, maybe a little bit more. And now the corn, as of yesterday, I'm guessing it's 6 inches high. It's got a bunch of leaves on it. I mean, this stuff is 5 inches, 6 inches in a week. Is that normal? Holy hell.
When you've got adequate moisture, not too much moisture, and some warm sunshine, it grows like crazy. And that's why later on this week, I've got the first pass of herbicide on the beans as they were just emerging. It's post-emergence on corn, and then it's go time.
Wow. Okay. Let me ask you this, because obviously the corn can grow like that. I presume the bad stuff can grow like that too, the weeds. I'm going to throw this at you, Jerry. I'm out with my Roundup, very farmer-like yesterday, squirting out some of the weeds in my yard. And I have this AstroTurf section on the side of my yard. We call it our lanai, my wife and I. So I can leave the furniture on. I don't have to mow around it. It's got to be, 20 square feet.
Oh, I thought it was where you had your little Proctor's green for your
No, I'm not that guy. But we wanted this area. My wife likes all this furniture out in case, I don't know, people come and visit at night. I don't know. We got this thing. But I got to move all the stuff to mow around it. It drove me nuts for years. And we went to long story short, we were down in, I think it was North Carolina, and went to a bar. And the bar had fake grass in its bar area. Easy to clean. They blew it off with, a blower. And I said, this is what we need there. You put this down, I don't have to mow. You got a grass-looking thing, so we bought some a couple, 3 years back. But here's my point and why we're off track. I'm out there doing this. Dead center, in the middle of a 20 by 20 AstroTurf area, is a dandelion. It's fully bloomed, looked like it wants to spread its seed. I'm like, how? And I can't get grass to grow at times, and I got a weed growing through this. Don't tell me all those open fields with all the water you've got, they're not just covered with weeds.
Or have you ever noticed a highway and maybe there's a crack, and if there's not traffic, you'll see some weeds growing there and go, how come I can't get corn to grow like that?
That's my point. So let's go to break, as I'm running a little late. Let's go to break. When we come back, what do you guys got to do to maintain that? Again, if the black dirt out there in that farm field is luscious and I don't see any weeds, somebody's doing something right, because I got one in the middle of my yard. We're going to do more with Jerry here in a second. He's Jerry Groskreutz, farmer extraordinaire, on the Al Travis Show. More right after this. It's the Al Travis Show. We've got him, Jerry Groskreutz, and talking all things farming. So is this perfect weather for crops? It has to be perfect weather for the bad stuff. Does that mean you got to get out sooner with more of the Roundup or whatever you people use? I don't know.
Yep, you had to move that up a little bit, but if you've done a really good job of controlling weeds over the decades, you've really thinned out the, quote, weed seed bank in your soil. Because I've got some corn that I planted right after that rainy spell. So I got it planted 10th, 11th of May, sometime in there. Mm-hmm. And it's up 2-3 inches tall, looking great. There's not a weed anywhere in the field yet, because so many years I've been killing weeds and keeping them from going to seed. And I think I'm making progress. So now here pretty quick, I'll just go out with a post-emergence application in case there are any weeds coming. And then I put a residual on metocolor, so that keeps any weeds from germinating until the corn gets up and canopied. And when no sunlight can get down there, no weeds are going to grow.
Well, let me ask you this. How much of it is your neighbor's problem as well? I got the neighbor house in my home is vacant. It has been for a while. So the dandelions are waist high and blowing seed everywhere. Isn't that the same in a farm field? You might be great at it, but if the neighbor next door is letting her go to heck, aren't you just getting the seeds in? You know what I'm saying?
Most of the seeds, like thistles, have real light seeds that blow in the wind, like the dandelions. But most of the weeds that we deal with can't travel that easily. If there was a really big wind, maybe some could blow over, or maybe if there a heavy rain and water was running. But for the most part, we don't have to worry too much about that. But I got a question for you. Imagine that your house next to you is vacant for a long time. I'm just not going to say anything else.
I got to let that lay there, are you? Yeah, not saying anything by saying something. Thank you, Jerry, very much. Let me ask about other stuff, though. When you get the perfect weather conditions like we have, what about the vermins? Corn borer, and I'm trying to remember the names of bad animals that I heard. Yeah, how about those? Is it better for them as well? Is it better for everybody?
I don't. It's probably pretty good for them, but I don't worry too much about them because I bought the resistance in my seed for corn borers and corn rootworm and all those things. So I don't even have to use an insecticide attachment on the planter, and much more environmentally friendly having that little natural occurring bacteria inserted into that seed, and that corn hybrid will protect that corn from a number of below ground and above ground insects the entire life of that corn plant.
No kidding. I did not even know this. So if presumably you and enough of your neighbors get a hold of this bad boy, you could eradicate cornworm or whatever, right? Because they have nothing to eat.
Yep. Here's a classic example. This is going back probably 30 years, more than 30 years. Every once in a while, corn borers were a problem. And it was moths that would fly in, and then the larvae would tunnel in the shank of the corn plant holding the ear. And we had a big outbreak one year, and we were chopping corn silage that fall. When the head of the knife would hit that stalk, you just saw ears of corn dropping down onto the field. Right after that, they developed the corn borer technology into the seed, and you don't see corn borers anymore because it was very inexpensive. So many farmers planted it that we pretty much eliminated corn borers, for example. Now, the glitch in that is we've done that for rootworms, but we found out that rootworms are pretty pesky little things. And like the first traits we had, they developed resistance because we're using the same trait every year.
Sure.
So we learned something and more traits have been developed. So we changed things up to try and help the insects from, or keep them from developing resistance.
When you put stuff into a seed like that, and again, I get it. I'm not pro corn borer, don't get me wrong. But when you do that, do you see any change in the output of the corn itself? Does the plant spend more time getting rid of corn borers, not put enough, kernels on the...
Exactly. Like you don't have rootworms chewing off some of the roots of that corn plant.
Yeah.
It has better roots. Okay. You don't have insects chewing holes in the leaves of the corn plant when it's growing because they took a bite of it and they died. So the corn is actually more productive.
Okay, well, and then can I ask, was it a significant jump in cost when seed guy number one comes up with this resistant, thing that can do corn borers? I got to think he could offer it almost anything because Jerry's like, one less pass around my farm was worth a lot if I don't have to put insecticide down.
Yeah, let's just say my grandfather would probably roll over in his grave if he knew I paid $300 for a bag of seed corn, when he probably paid $10. But
how far?
It's not the same seed corn that my grandpa purchased.
How far does a bag go? Is it a bag an acre?
About 2.3 acres per bag.
Okay. Fair enough. And then and that at that cost gets delivered by the Amazon guy. He comes to your place and drops it off. Is that how that works?
No, we buy it from our seed dealers when we sit down after harvest and pick our corn hybrid soybean varieties for the next year. Okay. It's pretty specific because we know so much about these corn hybrids, and we know so much about them. We know where they'll do best. And if they have any weaknesses, if you might have that in your field, then you're going to pick another variety.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So with all this going on, Jerry, and again, been pretty decent start for you all this year. I presume corn and soybean prices are tanking because everybody's going to have a massive harvest this year.
They aren't taking, but they haven't gone anywhere either. We had a 30 or 40 cent rally in corn here about a month and a half ago. That disappeared, but we're kind of back where we spent most of the winter at. So.
And what do you get that? Why is that? Because we watched in the wintertime, Brazil's doing well, and they get a thing, and your prices go down or up. We watch Brazil. Do they not watch the Corn Belt, or are we just lucky here in Minnesota, and maybe the rest aren't going quite as well?
It isn't going quite as well in other parts of the grain belt, but well, like I said, Mother Nature has a conscience, and she's been smiling on us fairly well so far this year.
Yeah, surely has. Jerry, I got to fly. I appreciate you coming in and talking a little farming with us, my friend. I always love having you on.
Yep, and if you need some help after the show, I'll let you know how to get rid of that dandelion.
There's no way. The neighbor's yard, I mean, I'm serious. It is just a huge, massive sea of dandelions coming my way.
They're easy to kill when they grow in your yard. I never worry about neighbors if they have dandelions because they're easy to kill in my yard.
We will talk about that next time on the. You should have brought that up earlier. I would have spent all this time talking about that because that's what's bothering me these days. Jerry Groskreutz, farmer extraordinaire, 4th generation, 45 years in the farm himself. We love having him on the show. Much more coming up right after this on the Al Travis